Geordie Journo's back here outside the Newcastle United Media Centre, where we've been speaking to Eddie Howe ahead of Newcastle United's trip to Everton. Last trip to Goodison Park, potentially on Saturday evening. We're at the front because there's a tractor currently tending to the pitch at the Whitley Park pitch. So yeah, Eddie Howe this morning, Jordan. Plenty of talk this week. Stadium, obviously a big point that we'll get on to, but I guess a more relevant point in terms of Saturday's game is who's fit, who can play.
Yeah, who can play? That's the big question. Triple injury Bussier went with on the Shield Gazette.
Yes, positive.
Fabian Schär,
okay.
Nick Pope, okay. Kieran Trippier, okay. It was quite funny at the start of the press conference sequence when
I'd recommend you watch it because there wasn't a lot of quotes for us, but Eddie Howe did, short responses.
It was, Reza went for all the injuries, and it was, we're hopeful. Should be fine. Yep. So it was.
Well, he had just given those updates to Keith Downey live on Sky Sports, so we pretty much went into the press conference already knowing that information. Yeah. So it was a funny start to the press conference.
Exactly. Right. So that's your triple injury boost now. Newcastle United will be without Alexander Isak, which probably won't come as a surprise after. He withdrew he didn't withdraw. He wasn't named in the Sweden squad. So I can't speak here. Sweden squad in midweek. So it's hope that he'll be back after the international break alongside Callum Wilson, which would be a major boost to have two obvious strikers back. So fingers crossed that, but no, they won't feature at Everton. And Martin Dubravka is a fresh injury.
Officially a doubt, but he's also out of the Slovakia squad. A bruising to his knee, so be surprised. He wouldn't have played anyway against Everton. Could he be named on the bench? Maybe, but
I'd be surprised.
Does it really? When you've got 5 goalkeepers, one of them's got bruising on his knee, do you really need to take any sort of risk and name him on the bench? I'd say no. So Goodison Park was also talked about as well. Last visit to Goodison Park. My questions were centred about Anthony Gordon, which Eddie Howe didn't really answer overly enthusiastically. Because I said, look, Anthony Gordon for me tends to play all his games, basically all his good games for Newcastle have come at St James's Park. You could probably count on one hand how many good games, like really good games, he's had away from home, in my opinion. So I just asked Eddie Howe about that and whether a return to Goodison Park, where previously it hasn't exactly been a happy hunting ground for him when he's played for Newcastle. He played in that 4-1 win, but he was a substitute, didn't really have a chance to make an impact. And then last year the 3-0 defeat. So asked Eddie Howe about that, and he basically stressed it's down to the whole team, not about individuals. I just want Anthony to play his game, which if he plays as well as he did against Man City last weekend, albeit at St James's Park, then Newcastle shouldn't have too many problems. He will most likely play up front once again, but I think the issue is, can Anthony Gordon translate that home form, and Newcastle translate that home form away from home?
Yeah, I think there's still I still think there's question marks over how they perform away from home. I still think it's very much a concern, the away record. As I say, I'll credit Craig Hope, who's doing his video over there. It was when you're watching Newcastle United during the season they qualify for the top 4, you were going to away grounds feeling like Newcastle were the sort of the home team, or didn't feel like they were an away team. Whereas probably since last season onwards, it has felt like Newcastle have been the away team and ultimately struggled quite badly away from home. You think about the away games they've had this season, they haven't really performed well in any of them. Bournemouth, they never play well down there. Of course, they lost at Fulham. Wolves, although they won, was probably a sort of
they stunk the place out for the most part.
Probably a sort of I see out of the away performance this season is probably the best one, but that's not that's not a very high bar. So that's the challenge Eddie Howe has, is to translate that home form away on the road, because at St James's Park Newcastle play badly and still manage to get results against teams. St James's Park was always a fortress. It wasn't a fortress all years when Mike Ashley was in charge. But since Eddie Howe came to the football club, the new ownership came to the football club, St James's Park is very much a galvanised place, which obviously we'll come on to in a bit about St James's Park, but talk about the point the away form, honestly, they're so different. So I think we've seen the Manchester City game, they played really, really well, but you'll learn more about Newcastle on Saturday at Everton and what the team are about and by how they perform, because Goodison Park's a really tough place to go. You talk about sort of very good atmospheres, and as much as I don't particularly enjoy me visits to Goodison Park, it's an unbelievable atmosphere.
Yeah.
When that place gets going, it's very, very loud. Stands are shaking. So yeah, they've got a big task at Everton on Saturday, where, as I say, they don't really have a good record, bar that 4-1 win that they had in that Champions League qualifying season.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough test. Eddie Howe gave praise to Sean Dyche, the way he sets his teams up, being difficult to beat. I mean, Everton have been certainly quite easy to beat, but for some teams at the start of the season, but they've got their win. We always, when we saw that calendar, the fixture schedule and Everton start of the season, we went, God, Everton, their first win may well come against Newcastle, but they've got that win now, so pressure's off. But I wouldn't say that as such. I
think they're feeling a bit galvanised, well, because
yes.
I think they've got an imminent takeover as well, haven't they?
Yeah, and then moving to the new stadium. So if they can stay in the Premier League, it's positive for them. But yeah, always a tough game against Everton. Not a nice place to go for a lot of reasons.
Very tight press box, which
we've touched on. But yeah, you're right about the atmosphere. Can be quite intimidating, even as journalists. Like, we get shouted at them.
Oh, you're right. You're right within the fans. I remember the
4-1 was the funny one for us, because you had Scousers screaming at us, telling us what to write, and we were like, well, Newcastle winning, we're not going to write anything negative.
There was a screen smashed within the press box that day by a enraged
international
Ashley Cole.
Yeah.
So yeah, the fans are right on top of you in the press box and obviously on the pitch as well. So yeah.
All good fun. But yeah, talking about stadiums,
yes,
we'll move on. St James's Park, big one this week. I say big one. It was sort of
it was a non-update.
An update for the sake of it.
It was a kick in the can down the road update, as to say.
Yeah. We are doing something, but yeah, wait.
So yeah, the feasibility studies are in now. It's almost I didn't say this, but essentially the study in this feasibility study, and now they're not going to make a decision until is it early 2025, which they said, which I mean, it's been imminent for about 3 months. So what early 2025, whatever that is, I don't know. But that's when the update will come. Hopefully, in regards to, are they going to expand St James's Park, or are they going to look to move away? It could be in early 2025 where they then do another update where it says, actually, we've got to wait until this to then before we decide to do what. But I mean, should I go into my stance on it, on what Newcastle United should do?
Yeah, I think we'll both give our opinions, but I just think, yeah, the club the feasibility study started last year, and from before the end of last season, the club pretty much knew where they stood on it, and then it's just been, it's imminent, we need to consult the fan advisory board, which is good that they do, but the fact it's taken until basically October for them to do that, it's just to go, this is what we can do. It's just been a little bit of a slow process, and these processes, yes, do have to take time.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily critical of the long process, because ultimately it's a very, very big decision whatever they do. They're going to spend
they need to
billions
get it right.
of pounds, whatever thing they decide to do, whether that's indeed build a new stadium or expand St James's Park. So I understand why it's taken so long. I probably share frustration that it is taking so long, but I do understand it. Brad Miller addressed journalist, it was Liam Kennedy who spoke to Brad Miller, and he described it as sort of and I think it was describing the statement the other day actually as sort of once in a lifetime.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Once in a generation.
Yeah.
Which it is, because whatever happens, that stadium, whether it's an expansion or a new one, is going to be there for years and years to come. It'll be there, or maybe they expand it after we die, I don't know. But it's only whatever they do, it's going to be a very, very long standing thing.
Might get the feasibility results by then.
Yeah, fingers crossed. So yeah, I understand why it's taken so long, but hopefully, although there was an update the other day, hopefully we are closer to learning what they're going to do. And what they do, it's a really tough one. it's like a head over heart thing, isn't it? And I think that's probably the conflict and emotion for a lot of people, myself included. What would I'll let you go first. What would you do? Leave St James's Park, build a fancy new stadium, or expand what's currently there?
If you asked me a year ago, I would have said there's no way you leave St James's Park. Like, shouldn't really be in the question, because St James's Park, Eddie Howe touched upon it. He said leaving would feel like a betrayal. It's been Newcastle's home since the club started. Even before that, if you want to go back to the history of the way the club was formed. So, it's historic. It's obviously changed throughout the years. Its position in the city centre location, there is not a better located stadium in top flight football in England, arguably in any club really, in England. And it looks good. It dominates the skyline, and it's a good capacity. If you can make that bigger, it's great. But it is rough around the edges. I mean, the last expansion came at the end of the last century, so we're talking 25 years there or thereabouts. So there are signs of wear and tear. It does need a update. It needs to be brought up to the levels where we visit Premier League stadiums throughout the season, and you look at Tottenham Hotspur, Man City, even Arsenal, West Ham, even though they don't really like the stadium. They're sort of light years ahead in terms of the facilities and what they can offer. And St James's Park does need an update and a real injection of cash or investment to improve the stadium. And if that can be done, I'm all for it. But I think with the situation regarding Leazes Park and just behind it, if you could build a brand new state-of-the-art world-leading stadium just maybe a couple hundred metres to the north, or get me bearings, into Leazes Park, if that can be done, I'd be all for that, because ultimately you have to look at the long-term future of the club, and can the club afford to be sentimental almost for the sake of it? It would be a betrayal to St James's Park, but if you can basically build a new St James's Park in more or less the same location, and it be untouchable in terms of like the improvements you could make, and it be genuinely one of the best stadiums in the country or the world, then I'd be all for that. Because I think St James's Park, if you were to expand it, great for again maybe 20 years, but then you're looking in the future again, can you actually make that any bigger again if you want to take the club to the next level after that? And will we be having this conversation? Well, we might not be, but will the club be having this conversation in 20-25 years time where we're going, oh, we've got a 60,000 seater stadium, we need to expand it again, when they could just, the once in a lifetime opportunity to build a new St James's Park, or a Leazes Stadium as I've seen it dubbed by graphic designers.
Forgot his name.
Bondybot.
It's a great name.
That's maybe how
great
you say
name.
it. I'd recommend watching that video. It's just the concept images of we've done stories on it, haven't we?
Yeah.
So you can check out Newcastle World this week for just images of what a expansion might look like. If you could do something like that, I'm all for that. And the situation regarding Leazes Park, which once looked almost like an untouchable area, like the Leazes Conservation Area, now, although understand the club haven't actually contacted the people in charge of that at this stage, but if something can be done there, then I'd be open to that.
So I would go along with that. Location is absolutely key, so I would be in favour of a new stadium on the basis that it was in the city centre. And there's Leazes Park's an obvious one where that would be ideal, where you would have a stadium essentially 20 yards up the path from where it is now, and then you'd have a state-of-the-art stadium, because let's be honest,
and you wouldn't need to leave St James's Park either, because the stadium's just getting built next to it.
Sorry, I was going to say it. Me mind, I've got brain fog, which I know you did in the press conference against Eddie Howe when I was asked about Joe Linton, but anyway, location is absolutely key for me. And let's be honest, if the Saudis were to build a new stadium, they wouldn't just settle for one of the second best.
Okay,
it would be the best. The way they do things, it would be state of the art. And I would say if they were to build a new stadium, it would be the best in the country by an absolute country mile. You've got Spurs, which is sort of like bigged up the sort of the pinnacle stadium at the moment because it's probably the newest. It's a fantastic stadium, but I would back Newcastle to go and build better. So it's head over heart thing. Heart always says St James's Park because it shed so many sort of special memories there. It's been the club's home since, as you mentioned there, since its birth. Even beyond that as well, when you look at the history of Newcastle United and beyond that, and how the club formed. So it's such a special stadium. Shared so many special memories. It's one of those stadiums in the country where biased, but it's one of the best. When you go, when you go into St James's Park, you're going to witness a very unique atmosphere, I would say. The likes of Everton and stuff like that, Anfield, St James's Park is up there with those atmospheres. It's just a very special arena, and I think leaving that you'd probably lose a little bit of your
soul,
I would say, or it would certainly be cracked heart stuff. But I think that could be repaired. I think there would be initial devastation, if you like. If Newcastle returned and said they were going to leave St James's Park and build a new stadium, I think I would be initially devastated. But I think if you look at the bigger picture, building a new stadium, and Eddie Howe touched upon it in there, sort of all the finances around football now and PSR and all that.
Need it.
You need a purpose-built stadium to get as many people in the stadium as possible. And then beyond that as well, look at what Spurs have done with their stadium when they're getting the NFL into London. Boxing matches I think they've had there and stuff like that. I think probably, look, there's no reason why you couldn't probably do that with St James's Park, but as I say, if you have a purpose-built stadium, you have it built for all of those possible events.
There's a track there.
Goes past.
That's what we were trying to avoid is now
it's now
come back, come and haunted us.
So I'm very much still sit on the fence with it, to be honest, and I know that's probably you want to hear a sort of nailed opinion, but I'm trying to look at it from the pros and cons. And to be fair, what I will say is I think whatever decision Newcastle make, I'll back. So if they turn around and say they're going to move to a new stadium, bearing in mind it's in the city centre, on the basis in the city centre, I'll be okay. The only thing that would make me feel a little bit uneasy if you take that stadium out of the city centre. Because that's another thing. I talk about sort of the atmosphere at St James's Park. We've been to every Premier League ground in the country, and not many, or if any, are in the city centre where you've got bars around you. You've got a stack that's there now.
I think
it's the best positioned stadium I've been to.
That helps for the atmosphere, doesn't it?
Yeah,
massively.
It does. Yeah.
Whether you're a home fan or an away fan, because ultimately, a lot of people, not everyone, will have probably had a couple of pints before the game. The feeling, the energy around the city. They're not travelling. You go to even Man City,
Man City's out of the way.
Yeah, it's an out of the way. You sort of trudge into the stadium.
Southampton's
there's an Asda nearby. There's not much else. There's one or two pubs. We had to drive. The one time we've looked for a pub. Not that we ever do that regularly, but it was a drive. Newcastle is unique in that way, and that's its USP. And I think to lose that would be a crying shame. But I think the club would hopefully not even entertain that. I think there was talk. It's not an option now. Down by the Utility Arena, by the banks of the Tyne, that is still on the outskirts of the city centre, but I think if you can keep it more or less where it is, Cathedral on the Hill, if it can keep that title, I think I'll be happy. But while we're still on the stadium, a lot of talk about 60,000 seaters. People will try and make it as big as possible. Where do you stand on that? How big do you think St James's Park or a new stadium would have to be, or how big would you want it to be?
Eddie Howe was asked this, wasn't he? He wouldn't commit to a number. I seen a suggestion of 100,000 on X. No. And I like the ambition, but I don't think for us how big as Newcastle United are, they're a big club. We know that. Could they go out and fill 100-seater stadium every week?
Newcastle's not that big a city to command that, I don't think.
It would be an ambitious act. Look, if they want to build a 100k seater stadium, go ahead. be one of the biggest in the world. So if they
Aye,
want to do
but for those Conference League Thursday night matches against
yeah.
Bratislava, I know
sell
they're
out,
Champions League this season,
Sell
but
out.
like, yeah, they'll have to sell tickets for tenner to get everyone here. If they're going to be doing 50 quid tickets for those games, not a chance
No,
that gets full.
No, you're right. But yeah, capacity, I don't know. I think probably 65, 70,000 is the mark. That's the 65,000 seater stadium is like the sort of the catch line, isn't it? Where if we talk about a new stadium, it's get it to 60,000. I would say probably go a little bit beyond that. So
Yeah,
65 to 70 sort of Old Trafford capacity, because Old Trafford, Man United want to build a new stadium around the Old Trafford area, and if it's up to Jim Radcliffe, the taxpayers will end up paying for it, but we're not getting on to that. I think that the 100k stadium for them might be more ambitious than it is for, or definitely would be more ambitious for them than it would be.
It's more realistic for them.
Newcastle. Yeah, Manchester is not to go too deep, but is a city as well, has had a lot of sort of modernisation works, if you like. Manchester now is almost the second capital, I would say, above sort of Birmingham, obviously behind London. So a lot of money gone in there. I'm going on a tangent here. I'm just trying to sort of compare the two. So yeah, 100,000's a lot, probably too much. 65 to 70 for me, which I think's more than doable with a new stadium, I would say. I don't know what they can do with the expansion of St James's Park and what capacity they can get.
I don't think Newcastle really have all the answers just yet as well. So yeah, I think if you're expanding St James's Park, if you can get it to 65,000, great. If you're building a new stadium, I'd say aim for 70, because you want to protect that long term.
What's Everton's? Everton's 52, or similar to us.
It's about 55,
Is it?
maybe.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it's a lot of like Leeds, Everton, their aim. Anfield even, although that gets expanded again, that target Man City stadium has always been around that 55,000 mark, and you see Man City with the success coming, even Champions League games now.
Yeah, they're struggle to sell tickets.
Exactly. So I
Newcastle.
can't imagine Newcastle will have as bad a problem.
No, definitely not.
Particularly given the demand for tickets at the moment. But you can look back at, I remember going to Europa League matches, UEFA Cup matches.
The other Europa League under Pardew, and
Yeah.
I remember I went to a cup game. It was
They weren't
against
sellouts.
Mentalist Kharkiv at St James's Park, and the top ball was all shut. But I think times have definitely moved on from them, where there's obviously a better feel around the football club. At the time, it was like being in Europe, although we all wanted to build on it, was just felt like a one-off, and there was hope that Newcastle would, under Mike Ashley, would defy the odds and continue and compete for the top 5 every season. But when they signed Vernon Anita the year after, then and we're in a relegation battle again, it sort of obviously that sums up the feel.
Would it get to that point where you go, if you become used to say Champions League football, which hopefully
it's almost
Newcastle
like taking
do,
it for granted,
and then
isn't
if you go into Europa League, then people go,
possibly,
and you're playing lesser teams. I think very quickly a 70,000 seater stadium starts to look very big when you're talking about Thursday nights against.
You wouldn't. I don't think you would sell it out.
No.
I don't think you'd sell it out.
Like Newcastle have shown, certainly on Tuesday night, near sellout for AFC Wimbledon in the Carabao Cup third round. If you can nearly sell out for that, then certainly the demand is there right now. But you're talking about 10, 20 years down the line, will the demand still be there? And I think the club need to be prepared for that. So yeah, new stadium, I'm all for it. You're a bit more on the fence about it. I love St James's Park, and I think a new stadium has to be almost in the same location.
I'm in the camp of that. Whatever they decide to do in Newcastle, I'm behind it. That's my sort of sit on the fence response to say, whatever they choose to do, I'll understand it.
Yeah. Not helpful for the title of this video.
We're just going.
Couldn't disagree or fight about it. But yeah, I think one thing the club need to do in the next few years, write that big check. We've talked about it previously. We're next to the training ground here, which has seen investment. It's improved tenfold since the takeover, but a state-of-the-art training ground still hasn't happened, and there's real estate for that. The club could do that if they really wanted. It hasn't happened yet. The same with the stadium, but the stadium's obviously a much longer term, much more sensitive subject than simply relocating the training ground that fans never really get to experience. So unless they're standing outside waiting for autographs. So yeah, we're still waiting for that big check to be written by the owners. So till that happens, you sort of wonder what the future holds. So we'll wait and see on that. Hopefully, good news to come about the stadium,
but not imminent.
When that will happen, yeah,
early 2025.
Question marks remain. So yeah, want to wrap up there?
Yes, I think obviously the main purpose of this video was to talk about the stadium. I'm just thinking of any other lines from Eddie's press conference. I don't think there is. Yeah, we'll end it there. Sorry, I'm just doing a little brainwave in my head.
He was asked a lot, but a lot of
since PSG.
Oh yeah,
which I was surprised we got through a full TV section and not heard about the 1 year since PSG.
Yeah, because that's TV bread and butter, isn't it?
It is bread and butter.
You can show the highlights, show Miguel Almiron scoring a goal, Fabian Schär. Yeah, well, we talked about it on our Shots TV video. One of the best. Eddie Howe was asked about. It's been 3 years since the takeover. He was asked about his favourite moment since the takeover. In the context of him previously speaking about PSG, he went, no, Leicester City. Which actually, that was the game I remember at the time.
Not
thinking,
the 0-0.
Yeah.
That qualified Newcastle to the Champions League. No. It was the Bruno double.
The relegation battle season where Bruno, they came from behind, did they not?
Yes.
And Bruno scored a diving header in the deep into stoppage time.
That was the last kick of the game, I think.
Great Matt Targett contribution. And Joe
it was.
Willock.
It really was.
Matt Targett's fine, back in training. So yeah, he pointed to that as the game where Newcastle as a club, although they wouldn't have externally admitted it at the time, felt, yeah, we're staying up here. Which I remember the feeling after that game as well, and I was like, yeah, Newcastle, they've done it with a few games to spare.
Yeah.
They don't throw it away from here. I think they were out of the relegation zone at the time, and then that result, that win, moved them a bit clear. So yeah, good moment for Eddie Howe. He also said being appointed Newcastle manager, obviously a proud moment for him as well.
Classy.
So yeah, hopefully a win at Goodison Park tomorrow will be another highlight for him. Should Newcastle get it, but we'll be there, myself and Jordan. Liam still on holiday, enjoying the sun, and the drinks, and the cocktails in Greece, and yeah, we'll be driving down to Goodison Park tomorrow, and there'll be another video to come after that game where hopefully we'll be talking about a Newcastle United win. But in the meantime, please check out our sponsors, Four Rivers Financial Planning, for all of your holistic financial needs. Link will be in the description, and we may have mentioned this before, we've been nominated for the Football Content Awards, Best Club Content Creator in the Premier League. Link to vote for us in the description as well. The final for that, the awards evening, are at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, state-of-the-art stadium. Another revenue stream for them, Spurs.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
I know.
Will be on the 21st of November, so a few weeks' time.
Yeah.
Well, a month and a bit. So yeah, that wraps up the video. If you like what we do, please remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, ring the bell for all your latest Geordie Journos content, and we'll see you tomorrow at Goodison Park. Cheers.